Today we're going to test the top 3 titanium exhaust systems for this YZ250F. We have the FMF, Akrapovic, and Pro Circuit. We're going to put them on, go out there, do some laps, compare them all, and see which one is the best. Being that this 250F is all stock, no ECU, no motor work, I really want to compare to how bolting on these full systems does change the bike. Does it take away from the bottom and add to the top? Does it smoothen everything out? Obviously the power curve, the sound. I think it'll be a really good comparison in stock form on this bike. I have ridden it with the stock exhaust and then also with just the FMF slip-on. So now I have a good little baseline as to what the bike is in stock form and then with the slip-on, and then now how these full systems are gonna help the bike out. First things first, I'm gonna go with the Pro Circuit titanium system here. That is because I've never ridden with one of these on a Yamaha, so I want to have, the least amount of knowledge on something before I go to the FMF, where I have that as a baseline. I know that from previous bikes. So Pro Circuit, then the Akrapovic, then the FMF. So we're gonna get this Pro Circuit put on now. All right, no more slow-mos, let's give this some revs.
All right. Sounds good.
All right guys, we just got done riding this Pro Circuit TI6 exhaust system on the YZ250F. Wow, I'm pleasantly surprised with how much something can change the power curve of a bike with just bolting it on. These YZ250Fs are notoriously loud in stock form. That is known. The stock exhaust is atrocious. But with that being said, it also does run really good with that stock exhaust. So sometimes you can put a full system or just a muffler on a bike and it might help somewhere, but then it's gonna really take away from somewhere else or cause, a backfire, a pop, or something a little weird if you don't map your bike. Right away, starting the bike, you can hear its response is very crisp. Something that I really like is, the first quarter throttle when you're kind of, in, let's say, a hard pack flat corner. When you're just cracking it on, you want it to be smooth, but also build from bottom to top nicely. Sometimes you get something where it hits really hard, and that is fun in deep loam and conditions like that, but also when you break traction, that's where you slide out, you're not gonna go faster, and it might make your ride a little bit more unenjoyable. So this system does a great job connecting from bottom to mid. So that flat corner, rolling on the throttle, very good, very responsive and crisp. Where I do think that I would like a little bit more is that mid to top, right? 250Fs, you can ride them so hard, especially here at Kauai, we're up a little bit higher in elevation, so you are at a power deficit. But I still believe that this anywhere else, I would still like it to build a little bit harder, from mid to top. But with that being said, I don't know how much you're gonna be able to get just putting an exhaust on it. I don't think anything's ever gonna be able to build from bottom to mid and mid to top all the way through, run clean, crisp, and have everything just bolting it on without doing any ECU or airbox or motor work to to go along with that exhaust when you map and dyno stuff to match it. So with all that, I really do like this exhaust. I do like the characteristics that it did add to to the performance of this bike. Nothing too crazy, runs smoothly, and man, it looks pretty dang good too. Overall, first impressions of this Pro Circuit TI6 system is I really do like it. I give it the the rate of approval. Where it adds to the bike is very nice. The bottom to mid, incredible. Where it fits in price-wise, a titanium exhaust is expensive, albeit it is not as expensive as the Akrapovic that's right around that $1,700–1,800 range. And you could always get this in a stainless version as well. It's gonna have the same performance, just gonna be a little bit heavier. So if you're looking to save some weight, if you're looking to add some bling to your bike, help in that bottom to mid area, I'd check out this Pro Circuit TI6 system. Now, with all of that being said, we are gonna take this Pro Circuit system off, put the Akrapovic on, try something new, and go out and give it a try on the track. I do have to say, the fit and finish, installing this, it is seamless. It is so nice, comes with all the pieces you need, the Torx bits, bolts, the extra washers, the grease, springs, everything you could imagine, fits perfectly. Excited to try this out.
All right, fire that thing up.
All right, guys, I just finished off riding this Akrapovic exhaust system. I think I'm a little bit underwhelmed with the result of this. You know, with the fit and finish, obviously the price tag, and some of like the rapport that I've heard about these is so good, right? And I think that this system would be better affected if you did have an ECU or a head and it was all mapped and coupled together. I think that would really help enliven this system. But you know, here today, it's a little bit more hard packed, so you really do feel, you know, throttle response. And you have to be very, you know, aware of that because you can break loose. And I do think that this system doesn't have quite the inertia, or not the inertia, the hit that I would like out of a 250. Specifically, there's like 2 or 3 good corners, good lefts, where you come out, they're a little bit softer, and one's a good rut. And it doesn't feel like it'll pick up and get out from underneath itself in a little bit of a heavier condition. And so on the soft stuff, I think that's where on a stock 250F, this exhaust system might lack a little, but then on the hard pack, you know, when you're kind of flat tracking and you're trying to really be precise with it, that's where it's good because it's smooth. I don't think I've ever ridden an exhaust system that builds from bottom to mid and mid to top so smooth, right? There's no point at which you're like, okay, there's the power that I want to try and ride in. If it's either in the bottom and you're trying to, you know, short shift and use the meat of the power, or if it's up top and you know you have to stay there. With this one, I did find, yes, I need to be on top of my shifting, just like any 250, right? You can't just continue to wring its neck like you can the Austrian bikes. But I do think overall, it does feel the most connected that I've ridden on one of these 250Fs, but the least exciting. So kind of 2 interesting pieces there for you. But that's what I feel today on these conditions. And I wanted more. I wanted to rave in a review about this, but this is what I'm feeling. So now we are going to take this Akrapovic exhaust system off. We're going to put on the FMF 4.1 titanium system. That'll wrap out our 3 exhaust systems, and we're going to go and try that one on the track next. All right, we've got the FMF on here. Let's fire this thing up. All right, guys, we just got done riding with this FMF 4.1 titanium system here on the YZ250F. Man, my first impressions overall is I really do like what it can add to the bike. That's such a broad statement, right? But this 250F stock form is so good. The chassis is amazing, but it's always fun to continue to add little pieces to the bike and see how you can improve it. Exhausts are a funny one because you can sometimes go and throw an exhaust system on a bike and it's not gonna make a difference. Might hurt in one area and add to the other. I do believe that this full system for the 250 was a nice gain down low, but like any other exhaust I've ridden on this bike before, I'm not noticing too much up top, right? So the biggest thing that I do notice different on this versus the stock is the connection from the bottom to the mid, but also the bottom does hit hard with this. I go so back and forth between being a 450 guy, being a smooth guy, being this and that. But there is nothing more fun than having that kind of first initial umph from a 250F, right? Because yes, you like to ride them hard and sing these bikes. So when you can add something to it without having to change the mapping, without having to change anything else, and have an increase, you know, I feel like 2 good areas, that is an overall win for a system, right? Like I said, I didn't notice anything too crazy up top. I do believe that you can ride the piss out of these bikes, but no matter what, when you shift it appropriately and you ride in the power, I feel like that's where this bike, this exhaust helps, you know, they couple together the best and build the best rideable power. The sound and the cleanliness of it is kind of still something that you get when you put any exhaust on a bike, right? Kind of a little bit fatter, like you kind of get a little bit of a backfire feeling when you're on decel going into a corner. I think that obviously that could be so easily changed and mapped out so that you don't have that issue. Some exhausts are worse than others, but for this one, I'd say it's kind of like right in the middle ground. You still get a couple times if you're not in the right gear going into a corner, so you're higher RPMs and it wants to pop. But overall, the initial crisp throttle response is awesome. That's where, you know, I really do think that this helped a lot, and it kind of weighs out anything else. So for a titanium system, the price point, the look, obviously we love the blue exhaust, how the Mega Bomb and the titanium heats up and goes. It's really, I think, one of my favorites and an incredible addition to this YZ250F. All right, guys, that is a wrap for our exhaust test here today at Kaweah Creek Motocross. Man, I have to really separate, you know, my love for each of these exhausts in different places, because they all did things so well and had such good qualities about them. But then also there's certain things, of course, you don't like. So, you know, almost like the 3 main things that I want to, you know, go over with each exhaust is obviously like the fit, right? When you're installing it, how easy is it? Because I do believe the Yamaha with the wraparound header is harder. Obviously, the sound, the crispiness of it without touching your ECU or remapping or anything. And then of course the feel on the track. How does this change the feeling of the bike, and what does it add or take away? Overall, the Pro Circuit was easy to install. Sound was great. No backfire, nothing like that. And then of course it did add to the bottom, which I really did like. You know, bottom to mid, really crisp. Nice performance. Would still like a little bit more out of the top, but totally understand. Now, the Akrapovic. This is also, again, something that I've never ridden on a Yamaha. I've heard raving reviews about these, so I've been intrigued to try it. And of course, with the Acro, it's known that they are, you know, so perfectly manufactured, and the fit is incredible, and all the pieces and the craftsmanship is next level. Yes, that is the case, right? It is a beautiful work of art, fits seamlessly. That is probably one of the easiest exhausts I've ever installed. Comes with everything you need, done deal, right? But track-wise, I was a little underwhelmed. No big feelings anywhere from that exhaust on this 250, right? There was no point where in the bottom, mid, top, throttle response, anything like that I was like, okay, wow, this is significant. But with that, you don't always need something to be significantly better in one area or wow you, or you know, you feel it in your throttle, because that could then create, you know, a bike that's, you know, not easily settling and, you know, loses traction and stuff like that. So I don't want to go too hard on not being wowed by some crazy performance, but rather acknowledging how smooth the exhaust was all the way through the power. Very clean, never has a little backfire or anything like that. So install this right onto your bike, stock mapping, very, very good product. All right, now the FMF 4.1 system. Overall, I think that this looks incredible on the bike. The fit installation is absolutely seamless, so easy, comes with everything you need. Track-wise, I feel like this was probably the one that I noticed the most on the bike. Obviously, it is the loudest, I would say. With the 250F Yamaha, you're gonna get that crazy airbox sucking sensation no matter what. It's gonna be loud. But with the FMF, I feel like it's a little bit higher decibel than the Akrapovic and the Pro Circuit. With all of that being said, I still feel like the FMF had the most fun bottom that still connected nicely to the top, or you know, to the middle. But overall, I don't think any of these exhausts really added too much to the top end or any over rev. If anything, the FMF was the widest gain of power or you know, the feel, but I still feel like the Pro Circuit gave you the crispiest throttle response, but then the FMF gave you the most fun, kind of the most exciting feeling 250 out there. And of course, like I said, guys, over and over, this is a stock bike, so I'd be so intrigued to ride all of these exhausts with a Vortex ECU that is mapped for them, because I know that that can really change how each of these feel, how it, you know, if you can get it to pull a little bit longer and how clean it's gonna be, because when you put these exhausts on this stock bike, if it does have a little bit of a backfire, or if it does sound a little bit rich, that's kind of to be expected. You know, these bikes are built and dynoed with the stock exhaust, right? So to expect anything different would be crazy of us. But in stock form, the FMF adds right in the places I like for a 250. You ride it in the meat of the power, it is good. You sing it a little bit longer, it still can do good, but that's where, like anything, it starts to teeter off a little bit. So, man, overall, what a fun day. So cool to ride all of these different exhausts back to back. Really start to, you know, pick and pull from each one and notice where one does something really good and the other. Overall, these are 3 great products, and products that you can find on the MX Locker website or app. So make sure to check them out. And if you guys like this type of content, make sure to like and subscribe and give us some feedback. Which exhaust do you guys think sounded the best, looked the best? We want to hear your feedback, and what other products should we test? So drop us a comment and we'll see you in the next one.